All right, everybody, welcome once again to another episode of the Mr. Eccentric Podcast, episode number 3 now. Got another amazing guest with me today, man. We've been playing tag for a little bit, trying to get this set up. I'm so glad we finally got it going. Coco, what's up, baby? How you doing?
I'm doing good, tired, booked, busy, blessed, triple B. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, before we dive into that, let the people know who you are.
I'm Coco the Conversational Freak, sex confidence coach for women to help them build confidence in themselves first. That translates into the bedroom.
Nice, nice. And now you mentioned booked. What was it? Give me those three B's again. What was it?
Booked,
Booked,
busy, and blessed.
booked, busy, and blessed. Yes, definitely. I mean, for those of you out there who are up on game and follow Coco and peep the content, you already know she's been all over the place lately. That's why it's been tough for us to get things going, but that's a good thing, right? Being busy within your craft is dope. I know recently you did Essence Fest. How was that?
Listen, it took me probably a good 2 weeks to finally come back to reality of wow, that actually happened. So it was, and I don't want to deviate, but for any entrepreneurs or business person that is out there, building your network and planting those seeds early on when you're starting your business is what's going to help you later on in life. It's not a short run, it's a long run, it's a long game. You get what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that opportunity happened because of someone that I was connected with who was offered the opportunity, but was like, you know what? I don't want to take it. This is the person who deserves that opportunity, and actually told them to reach out to me.
Man, that's dope. That
Yeah.
goes to show, like you said, the importance of building a network. I'm somebody who's very keen on that. Like I preach that hard. Like you build a rock solid network, you nurture it as well. You never burn bridges because like you said, at any given time, those practices can come back and be really beneficial for you. So
Yeah.
how was the experience of actually being out there? Because you did a panel discussion and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very surreal. I learned a lot. It was very surreal of what life is going to be for me. Whereas, walking through and, having your badge and you being golf carted places and just meeting people that you see on TV and you see on social media, and you're like, it's not even I'm coming to your concert. We're in the same room because we're both working at the same level. So that was
Mm-hmm.
definitely a different feeling. That was definitely a different push because it's like I want to be in these rooms all the time. So it was really really amazing to connect with different people in the industry, building again, still building networking, relationships, and all of that. So it was crazy.
That's what's up. I've never been myself, but like every year I see it, all over social media and whatnot, and I see all the posts and clips and it looks like Wakanda weekend, yo. Like I know I gotta make it down there at one of the at some point for sure.
Yes, I highly recommend to go. It's fun. It's
Hmm.
very, very fun.
So I know you've been on the go since, you know what I'm saying? You got a little tour going on. I know, we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So where are you at currently?
So currently I live in Orlando. Right now I'm visiting family up north because I have a class in New York City.
Hmm.
After New York next week, I'm going to be in Atlanta. In October, I'm possibly going to be in California. So there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot going
Yeah.
on between that, doing private parties. It's a lot, but this is what I asked for. This is what I'm ready for, and this is what I do.
Yeah.
So it's been
So
very,
now
very.
now let's not be modest, right? You kind of blew past a little something here, and I know you want to keep it modest, but I'm gonna shout you out, man. You mentioned the New York show. That's a sold out New York show. We can't miss the sold out part. So congratulations on that. I could imagine how dope it is to know that you put yourself out there like that and set up these workshops and classes and whatnot and touring and whatnot, and to be able to sell the place out. So congrats on that. That's dope.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And again, I couldn't have done it without partnership. Like I partnered with I don't live in New York. So
Hmm.
I didn't have to fly out and find a venue. I didn't have to travel back and forth. It was literally built a relationship with somebody I've never even met in real life. But meeting them, shout out to Honeydew Holistics. She uses her platform to educate as well. And we teamed up together and made it work.
That's what's up. So you also mentioned that you're currently up with family, right? So that strikes like, that hits something in my brain immediately. So all right, so you're a sex coach,
Yes.
and there's no hiding that, you're out there really doing your thing on social media, really hitting your stride and whatnot. So what what does your family think about all of this?
So funny. This is going to kind of go dark very fast, but
Hmm.
I had actually cut off my family for about a year.
Okay.
And it wasn't even because of what I do. It was in the process of becoming who I needed to be for me. I couldn't allow certain things, I couldn't allow certain behaviors and cultural traits and things of that nature to cloud my I'm still going to do what I have to do, but I couldn't allow myself to be clouded by any stress, any projected trauma from anybody. I couldn't do it. So it hurt me, but I had to cut them off. Till this day, like my mom knows I talk about sex, but they don't know to what extent. Thank God they're not on social media. But they don't know to what extent I actually do this. So that's a good thing. And as far as like my whole entire family kind of doesn't know what I do,
Hmm.
really. Again, because I cut them off. This is the first time they my parents, I haven't seen them in a year. My other family, I haven't seen them in like two or three.
Hmm.
So they
So it
kind
was
of
like
don't.
seeing them for what was it like seeing them for the first time in such a long time?
It was really, oh my God, it was a relief. It was a relief only because I'm in a space now where I'm so comfortable, not only in what I do, but with myself, where now their projection, it doesn't mean much to me. It's just,
Mm.
okay, you're raised differently. You have your traumas that I don't know about. And I accept them where they are instead of trying to be frustrated to get them to understand. They probably will never understand, and I'm okay with that. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's family, it's all love. But when you start to project, I retreat until you can get yourself together and understand, okay, she doesn't deal with that. So I'm just going to keep my comments to myself because I do want a relationship with my niece, my cousin, whatever the case
Hmm.
is.
Yeah. That makes sense. So and we'll let the audience know. Yeah. Well, my audience knows I'm Haitian and you are Haitian as well.
Yes.
So and for all the Haitians out there or anybody who even has Haitian friends or knows of the culture, y'all know what it is when it comes to sex, right? It's this weird dynamic that growing up as kids, it's not really talked about. It's not really brought up and educated. It's pretty much don't do it and that's it. And then at some random point you grow up and it's like, when are you gonna have kids? Like you literally go 0 to 100.
Yeah, it's
So
like, I thought we weren't supposed to do that.
So what was your experience with sex growing up? Like how did you come about learning the process of sex, as you were younger?
Um, Friends, school, porn, really,
Hmm.
honestly, because there was no conversation. It was ladies, liquor, laka, school, church,
Yup.
home. Those were your
Yup. The
three
three
pillars.
L's.
So I'll never forget. And I said this on social media too. We had gone
Hmm.
to a live, which is a revival. And I remember the lady just screaming into the mic, "Stop having sex. Sex is no good." And I was just like, ma'am, I feel like I was scarred for the entire service. And I'm like, and it was to the point where like I feel like if I thought about I was like 10, if I thought about a boy that I liked, I thought I would be pregnant. So every time I started to like somebody, I was like, nope, l'église le lakai. I can't,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah.
That was
That's
insane.
that's essentially what it is. It's like, it's kind of like that fear factor and scare tactics pretty
Yeah,
much. It's just like, don't even ask us what it is and why you're not supposed to do it. Like, just
yeah,
don't do it,
exactly.
which is obviously unhealthy, right? Because I know I think about that now, and I got a son who's 13 years old, about to go into the eighth grade. And it's like, I remember the type of shit that I was doing when I was in the 8th grade. And now I'm sitting
Yeah.
here like, fuck, like I gotta, start watching this little fucker, you know?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, remembering like what you were doing and not being educated, and it's just
Yeah,
like
exactly.
now kids are even more off the chain. So it's
Hmm.
like, imagine what you were doing times 10. And it's like, oh
Yeah.
hell no, you are not learning this from Timmy down the street. You're gonna learn it here, so I could tell you the right thing to do.
Yeah,
You
see,
know?
and that's something that's important too, and that's what I think I admire a lot about your platform, right? It's like, obviously, not to say you're necessarily focused on teaching younger people about it, but just teaching people about
Mhm.
sex in general. I feel like, the your name specifically just resonates, the mindset, right? Conversational freak.
Yeah.
It's just having conversations about something that, we continue to be taught is taboo, but then if we're not as educated on it, we may not be doing it right. We may not be getting the best out of it. We may be putting ourselves or our partner in danger. So there's a lot of things around sex that absolutely need to be talked about. I think the space that you're in is just amazing. Because the I think the biggest thing is the confidence that I see that exudes from you as you project your information and your points of view. So I guess my question to you is like, where did that confidence come from? Like, at what point did you feel confident enough within yourself and with
Mhm.
sex to kind of really be yourself in this manner?
I was freaking tired. Okay, sis was tired. And what I mean by that is, okay, I've already lived the life of let me do this for so and so. Let me
Mm-hmm.
not do this to make my parents happy. Let me live this life, and hopefully, by me loving this person enough, or me conforming myself or staying in this box, what you're taught at the end is, you will have redemption because you're so this, that, and the third. I already knew what that was like. It was
Mm-hmm.
draining. It was emotionally scarring. It was everything that was horrible, honestly. And I'm like, all right, I already know how that feels to be in a box. Okay, people are still going to talk shit about you. No matter
Yep.
what you do,
No matter what.
people are
Yep.
going to find something wrong with what you do. So if I'm already doing, quote, quote, the right things that make me feel like I'm in a box, I'd rather do things that make me feel happy and not give a flying fazooha and just do me and be happy, because at the end of the day, I have to answer to myself. I don't have to answer to all
Yes.
these people. So I knew sex was one of the things that I dealt with in trauma that held me back. So after healing and doing the work and going on solo trips, I was like, I really don't care anymore. So it literally started with me just talking about it on Instagram, and then it just snowballed.
So leading up to that, what were, some of the insecurities or struggles that you kind of had internally around sex?
One, I felt like because the way, especially with Haitians, I feel like they're much harder on girls
Hmm.
because your
Absolutely.
virginity is like a gift that you give to your husband. So I felt like because I wasn't a virgin anymore, any man that I met after that had to be my husband, because it was almost like every man I dated or slept with decreased my value every single time. So I
Yeah.
felt like my
Yeah.
value was kind of embedded in how I would be viewed as a wife, a girlfriend, or just as a woman in general. So then I would hold on to these relationships that were toxic, and I would hold on to these people, and I even like, but that also made me hold on to friendships that were not good for me. It made me hold on to jobs that were not good for me because I didn't feel good enough for them.
So what would you say, if there was like a very specific turning point, or was it like a gradual thing that kind of came about? Like, what was that like awakening of, oh no, I'm done with this?
I took a solo trip to Mexico because I was like, hold on, I want to know what it's like. It didn't start off with sex at all. It started off with me saying, I want to know what it's like for me to make every single decision based off of what I want, what I like, and what I don't like. I was like, oh, perfect way. Go on a solo trip. It was a healing retreat with a whole bunch of women that I didn't know
Hmm.
that were coming down to the same resort. So I went, child. From, from then on, it was like the, I was with somebody, which I feel like I was with this person. It was, we had our toxicity in the relationship,
Hmm.
but I had to, I feel like last year I finally got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I shared a lot of responsibility in the toxicity as well.
Hmm.
But this was somebody I thought I was never gonna leave. We're gonna get married, have kids, live the life. I came back from that trip 2 days later. I was like, yeah, we need a break. This ain't gonna work. And we were together almost 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But
That's
before that trip, I was
so,
like, that's my husband. I remember
and
the
that's what I
month
was
before.
gonna ask. That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask. So before the trip, there was like that wasn't in your mind at all. Like it was full speed
The month
ahead. That's my man.
the month before the trip, me and my friends are on vacation. I'm like, yeah, ring 2020. I'm finna marry that man. And da, da, da. August, I was like, this ain't gonna work, boo. I gotta work on me. Like, it was a flip.
So, all right. So
Yeah.
then, so what was it about Mexico? I mean, you can give as little or as much detail as you want, but like, what was it specifically about that trip that that got you kind of over that hump and out of your shell in that manner?
So like I had said, like every decision I made was for me.
Mm,
Like people saw in me what I couldn't see. And because I was away from all the noise, I also started to see it. That's number one. Number two, if I'm being very transparent, it was the way the men out there was treating me as well, where it's just like, you heard what I wanted to drink and you just got it for me. Like there was a lot of things that were happening where it's just like people just wanted to have conversation with me. And I'm just like, oh, I didn't know I was dope by myself.
mm-hmm.
And then when I got home, I didn't have the same feeling that I did in Mexico. And I'm like, the reason I had that feeling was because I was working on me and I was by myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this journey is for me to take alone. Because once you get that feeling, you feel like you smoked crack. It's addicting. Well, don't smoke crack, y'all.
Well, no, definitely let's not smoke crack. uh, so safe to say there was a level of confidence that you may had not necessarily achieved on your own, right? Because it kind of sounds like within the relationships, maybe a lot of your self-esteem, self-worth, and confidence was attached to your significant other.
Oh, absolutely.
That's something that I know in a lot of relationships. I kind of, not to say see it, but like when it's evident, you could kind of see it. And that's one thing I always like.
Yeah.
I hate for people, whether it's whoever it is in the relationship, male, female, whatever. It's like sometimes you can tell when that codependency is a little too much, and it's like, well, when you separate, who are you on your own?
Yeah. I was super codependent.
You have to be able to live a life separate on your own, right?
Yeah.
Because you guys have a life together, but if that significant other's not there, you can't just sit around and be like, well, what do I do now? Should I be doing anything? Can I do anything?
Mhm.
So I can totally understand how that light bulb could go off immediately when you're out there just really just taking life by yourself, right? Especially like you said, you didn't even go out there with girls you knew. The people you were on the trip with you didn't know at all, right? So are those anybody you went out on the trip with, have they become friends now? Like, do y'all still kick it at
Oh my
all?
God. Yes. We were so tight, of course, with COVID. That kind of like kept the distance because we were all living in different states, but we had built a bond in a relationship that was so healthy and so uplifting where it's like even them like they were like like what are you doing? And it's not till we broke up people around me was like, oh girl, yeah, when you're in that relationship you're, and I'm like, dang, so who's gonna tell me?
And like I said, when others see it, that's especially like you said, somebody who doesn't know and doesn't have the visual necessarily, hasn't been there to see the dynamic, and it's just based off of the conversations that you're having, they'd be able to see it like, nah, girl, you need this.
Yeah, it's like go on.
So I could imagine there was a lot of experimenting that possibly went on down there, trying things you haven't tried before. Like, what did that look
Yeah,
like?
I went ziplining
Mm-hmm.
in a jungle that was
Nice.
rigged. So yeah, I was taking risks, but I
Ziplining is some next level shit, man. We did I remember one of my birthdays, my wife took me ziplining, and it was nighttime ziplining, so you couldn't even see where you're going. Like that shit was crazy. But ziplining is dope, man. And because I have a fear of heights, and like
me too.
planes and stuff like that don't bother me. It's
Mm.
it's like the basic stuff. Like if I'm at the top of the ladder, like I'm gonna start shaking,
Yeah, I'm not
or
doing
like
that.
some bullshit high school bleachers. But I
Yeah,
remember getting out on that zip line and like, I can't even see. Like it kind of made it better. I think it kind of made it a
mm,
little better. So now I want to do it like during the daytime and actually see what's going
yeah,
on.
yeah. You do.
Any ATVing? You didn't do any ATVing out there?
So I did. I crashed, and they had to come get me.
Oh man, I need that story. How'd you crash? Yo?
Cause my ass, I feel like the ATV was just too big for me, and I just veered off. And I literally have a photo of me embarrassed, like with like a shawl on my face, with the guy driving me passenger side. I was just like, yeah, it was me.
I hope it wasn't a big fall, like no like side of a hill or something like that.
No, no, no. I crashed into a rock. Yes,
Okay, that's not
and
terrible.
got
We
like,
did a
yeah,
we did a guys trip a while back, and one of the dudes that was with us, we were doing the ATV same thing, and like out of nowhere, because they do the guide in the front and the guide in the back to make sure
yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
on point. And guide in the back come flying past everybody. Next thing you know, we stop. They go fly. The two of them go flying back. Sure enough, one of the homies slid down a hill and is like on the verge of completely
Oh no.
falling off. Like it was nuts. So you go to Mexico, you have this amazing trip, you kind of come out of your shell and whatnot, and you start, feeling yourself and whatnot. So what is it that specifically kind of guided you towards the specific niche of, content creation within the sex game?
So honestly, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't, oh, I want to be a sex coach. It was the me sharing my experience and me just sharing my thoughts as a woman as it regards to sex and seeing how receptive it was towards, well, how well it was received towards other women. And I'm like, okay, let me do some research and actually like educate in this space. And then from there, it just grew and grew and just boom.
So what are some of the stigmas and stereotypes and whatnot that you've kind of had to deal with, throughout this journey? I see the face. That means there's a lot.
Oh my gosh. From honestly, okay, let me say this. It really highlights men and their intentions. When
Hmm.
I say I've met some pretty dope men, some great guys, but then you have to be kind of like vigilant in the intentions as well because I had a guy yesterday tell me that I was insecure. I'm like, baby, you really don't know me. But
Clearly.
his his reason for calling me insecure was because I flat out told him, I said, hey, he reached out to me after, anyway, he reached out to me and was just like, oh, hey, let's meet up. And I was just like, he's like, oh, but if you don't want to be bothered, I understand. I said, I was very honest and said, it's not that I don't want to be bothered. I just feel like every single time for us to have a conversation, it has to be about sex. And I just want a deeper conversation. That's all I said.
Hmm.
Then it became, you think everybody wants you for sex and that's an insecurity. And I'm like, wait, no. Because I've spoken to dope men who I still talk to till this day, where I have great conversation with them where it has nothing to do with sex. And I'm like, you're projecting an insecurity because you didn't like my response. And I
Hmm.
feel like when I respond to men with a boundary or saying I don't like this, they don't know how to take it because they expect me to just be all about sex and just talk about it and
Yeah.
talk about it all the
Yeah.
time. So why is the problem to talk about it with me? And I'm like, because I'm more than that. I'm more than just a sex educator. Like I have other shit that I'm interested in.
Hmm. So do you find that because of that, men that are generally shooting their shot or in your DMs, it's because they just assume, hey, I'm gonna get some ass.
I would say it's 50-50, honestly, because I don't
Okay.
like to box people in a category at all. I understand it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen. That's cool.
Hmm.
But I'm very self-aware and intelligent enough to know what when someone's talking to me, what the intentions are, what the energy is, where I'm gonna put you at in terms of like if I'm gonna speak to you or not. Some men literally they just say it for jokes because they feel like it's a safe space for them to joke around without me
Hmm.
taking it serious, without me like without it being like oh, I'm trying to have sex with you. I know men like that. I I flirt back and talk back because I know it's just sex banter, letting steam off. I'm
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
fine. But then I know the men where it's just like, I'm gonna see if I could just try to get some. And then there's men who's just like, "Ooh, I like what you said about this. I want to hear your perspective on this. Where it's we're
Yeah.
talking about sex, but from a perspective of learning and perspective and educating and just learning from each other. So I meet a lot of different guys.
Yeah. And I'll say, so while we touch on that, right? Like I'll say that's the thing that drew me to your content, right? Because,
Mhm.
I don't remember what specifically it was, but I remember something popping up and enough to watch the entire video or reel or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting, and so I fall down the rabbit hole, I go down and I start looking at, the rest of the content. And same thing to me, like it was refreshing, to be able to see a black woman, a Haitian woman, no less. You know what I mean? To see a Haitian woman as confident as you were, to be able to speak on a subject that is so taboo and so not allowed to be
Yeah.
spoken about at all, which is ridiculous, as we've covered. So to be able to see how fresh and genuine a lot of your takes and advice were, that's why I was like, man, this is cool. I even told my wife, and I was like, babe, like, here's this random account that I follow on Instagram, and it's got some really dope content. So I'm curious, like, what amount of guys are like coming to you as far as looking for advice and asking questions and seeking information and education? What does that look like?
Shockingly, a lot.
Yeah,
I
I
will
would
say this.
imagine.
I have more men who come to me for literal venting or wanting to really understand than guys who come at me with BS. I can
Hmm.
truly say that, which is
Yeah.
very refreshing and shocking.
Yeah, I think one of the things, speaking as a guy, right? It's like
Mm.
guys, it's a fine line when you're talking about sex with a female,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's a friend, or whether it's a significant other, whether it's somebody that you may want to be more than a little something something, but possibly not. Who knows? Whatever the case may be. But there's always that stigma of like, how open can I be? How free can I be in this conversation?
Yeah.
So I would imagine that you allow yourself to kind of be a beacon, and to be a shoulder and to be an ear, where that comfort level is is
Hmm.
is top notch, for a stranger to be able to say, hey, what do you think about this? Or hey, what do you think about that? Let me get your advice about this or whatnot. So
Yeah. And some guys will give me scenarios and I'll really give them my take on it. But I know the difference between a guy who wants my take on it and a guy who's going to make the same corny joke of, huh, can you show me? Huh, can we practice? Like, shut up. Like, no. Like, and it's just at that point, that's when I just like get annoyed because I'm just like, okay, first of all, I'm not entertaining your bullshit. Where it's just like, oh, I love blah blah blah. Well, what do you? Because it goes from what do I think to oh, well, do you teach men or oh, and it's like a corny joke after, and I'm like, okay, and we're done here.
so that's a PSA moment right there. Like, for the
Yeah, please
fellas
stop.
who are watching and listening, like, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. So so what kind of energy do you get from women? What do the women that either comment on your posts or in your inbox, what are they saying?
They're very receptive in terms of like Some will go in my DMs and be like, hey, you talked about this. I don't understand XYZ, or I may not agree. But then when I talk to them and I say, hey, it's a perspective, I'm generally speaking, or I have no problem anybody who questions what I say. Hell,
Hmm.
question what I say. I don't, that doesn't bother me because I don't post things that I either don't practice or I'm not knowledgeable in. And if I'm not, I'm okay with being educated on it. You get what I'm saying? And I think that's what makes me stand out because I don't claim to be a know it all. But what I do know and what I do teach, I stand on.
Yeah,
Period.
and that's a good thing too. And again, going back to the conversational part, right? Like,
Mhm.
I stand on that notion as well. Like the whole point of this entire podcast that I'm doing is just to be able to have conversations. You know, hopefully a lot of uncomfortable conversations, the type of conversations that people aren't going to have, right? So the key part in that is always listening, and I think not enough people are willing to listen. So to your point where you don't know everything, you're not out here saying you know everything. So if somebody throws something your way that you have no idea about, guess what, that's an opportunity for you to now learn something new to add to your bag for the next time, so that mindset for me is absolutely amazing. So that's something that is most intriguing for me, is to be able to hear that. And it's refreshing because it shows that you're not in it just to hear yourself talk.
Well, yeah, no. That's why I don't have a podcast.
Yeah. Not yet, at least. I could imagine it's only a matter of time, right?
Yeah, I don't have a podcast. I need a co-host because I'm not listening to myself talk the whole time. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, see, and that's the thing. See, I haven't done any solo eps yet. I know I have one idea for a solo ep so far, but outside of that, I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't want to sit here and just blah 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 blah, preach preach preach,
Yeah,
opinion 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 opinion.
yeah,
I want to be able to have conversations where some of my thoughts and beliefs and opinions are being challenged, so that
yeah,
same thing I can try to learn something and add something else to my bag for the next conversation.
exactly.
So what are some of your goals and your vision for this path that you've decided to take within this content creation game?
I do have one big goal that I set, and I don't want to speak on it because I'm working on it. But essentially, my goal is really to just build a super strong, known community for sex resources when it comes to women, and hopefully for it to expand into other genres as well. But my main focus is women, especially women of color, because we deal with the most backlash, we deal with the most insecurities, we deal with the most
Mm-hmm.
trauma. So it's important for me to build a community that not only talks about it, but also has the resources as well.
So let me get your thoughts on just the mindset of relationships, right? So you mentioned women of color and getting the backlash and whatnot, and it seems like the talk of the internet streets when it comes to relationships among black folks is this submissive, not submissive, alphas, and you got the manosphere, and who's paying for this and who's paying for that. Like, what are some of your thoughts around some of these random stereotypes and beliefs that seem to be putting putting our people in a ring every single day? I see in the comment sections on all types of random posts just men and women fighting and arguing like crazy. I'm glad I'm married. Thank God I'm married. I couldn't be single in these streets right
Okay. Here's my take on it. Okay. I feel like people need to be clear going into relationships what their expectations are. I think when people get into a relationship, they have an expectation, but they're not confident enough to say what it is and hope that along the way that it changes and then you're butting heads. No, if it's a guy that believes in splitting 50-50 and you're not with it, you need to know that and make it clear. And if it's going to work, guess what? It's either you conform to what he does or he gets on the program, but it's just be clear. That's number one. Number two, I believe, I don't want to say gender roles, but I do believe in masculine and feminine energy. Okay?
now.
I believe that how you make me feel as a woman will determine how I move with you or not. Because if you ask me out on a date or you say, hey, I want to meet up with you, and you initiate these things, okay, I'm willing to listen and go. But you want me to plan it? It's not happening. Guess we ain't never gonna meet. Because you can't take a leadership role and then retreat and expect me then to lead. It doesn't work like that. So it's either you understand what leadership is in your dynamic, or you're gonna have a power struggle every single time. Because nobody's gonna know when who is leading what. And I like a leader, so I can only speak for myself. Some women they like to lead and stuff, not me.
I think that is you hit the nail on the head, right? I think the biggest thing overall, right, is making sure what's going to work within your relationship, specific to your relationship. And I think that the biggest thing I see more than anything is that people are either taking advice from the wrong people or trying to mirror their situation to the wrong situations, and it's kind of like a keeping up with the Joneses type situation, and nobody's really just sitting down and establishing what works for me and you. Like that's what is important. What works for me and you. I don't care about what works for them. I don't care about what works for them. I need to know what works for me and you.
Like I like a leader.
Yeah. So now we know that's good. So you're okay being submissive then, which is what
Please,
we're saying.
please. I don't want the responsibility of leading
It's a lot of
anything.
responsibility, right?
Keep it. I'm gonna make sure you're straight emotionally, sexually, mentally. But you
Mm.
lead and you protect and you provide. You ain't gotta worry about nothing. Nothing.
So I know you rattled off a couple cities earlier. In New York right now, there's some other cities popping up as far as the tour
Mhm.
goes. So outside of the tour and everything, like what's next? Like what's the next big thing for Coco?
Oh my gosh, the next big thing for Coco. Honestly, I hope by next year to drop a podcast. I know
Mm-hmm.
people have been asking for it, but I want to make sure that I do it the right way. That's number one. Number two is just my biggest goal is really just having a strong community with resources. That's my main goal right now. That's why I want to go to different cities and just get input from different women because you have your West and your East and your South where the culture might be different. And I want to understand what that means for you.
Yeah, and I think that's important too. The fact that you're able to identify that is extremely important. I know I come most recently, career wise, I come from the retail world, and that's one of the things that I always, just kind of make a little comparison. That's one of the things that used to bother me, where it's like, decisions are being made for a southeast store by people who live on the west coast, and it's like, but you don't know this area and understand what's going on here, and you're making decisions based on what's going on out there. So the fact that you identify that and know how important it is to be able to tap in with these key groups and key areas, because the mindset is going to be different, the
Yeah.
mentality is going to be different, so that's, again, like I enjoy hearing stuff like that, because that shows that you're not just in it for shits and giggles. Like, you're really taking this seriously, and you're really trying to tap in and be the best you can within this, which is awesome. So I
Thank you.
commend that for.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're wrapping up, right? We're at a part of the show that I like to call vice versa. I like to turn the mic around and let my guest be the host. So you get to ask a question. It doesn't have to be on topic. It can be on or off topic, your choice. But you are the host now. Fire away.
Okay. So, off the top, as a Haitian man living in America, two-part question. Did you come to America with a Haitian mindset in terms of gender roles and dynamic?
Okay, so I've been here since I was young, so probably like 5 years old, right? So
Okay.
is when I can, yeah, more or less. I'd say 4 or 5 years old is when I came over.
Mhm.
So growing up, obviously within the family dynamic, I'd say yes, based off of what I was exposed to within the family dynamic. My dad was hardly ever at home. When he wasn't pulling up to basketball games or chorus concerts or PTA meetings, you know. Why? Because he's working, you know, he's working
Yeah.
probably two, three, maybe even four jobs. You know, my mom was working as well, but you know, at the same time, still juggling the household duties and whatnot. You know, so growing up, that was the exposure that I had to, you know, the Haitian family dynamic. So for me, that was the mindset for a while, at least, when I was a kid. You know, but I'm a realist, and I think I acknowledged myself as a realist as an early age, and I started being able to dissect certain things and
Mhm.
understand certain things and kind of remove the being naive and remove emotion and kind of really think of things logically and be able to understand better, you know. So it's like,
Yeah.
whereas a lot of people may have looked at my dad and been like, "Oh man, you weren't a great father because you were never around. Like, we never see you at any of these kids' games or
Yeah.
events or stuff like that." But it's like, okay, but we always had food. We always had clothes.
He
When we
provided.
wanted the new fancy sneakers, he was able to do it. He sent us on vacations, you know. So especially as I grew older and became a parent myself, I was able to appreciate my dad. Not to say I didn't appreciate him before, but I was able to
Yeah.
appreciate him a lot more because I was able to then understand, like, you know, so those handful of times where maybe I did get mad and say, shit, I wish Pops was here for whatever it was that I was doing right
Mhm.
now. I understood at least why he wasn't. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like, oh, he ain't want to be here. No, he's out there working so he could pay for whatever bullshit it was that I'm doing at this time. You know, so that was the mindset growing up. But I kind of go ahead.
No, I said I feel like the way we grew up impacts us, and there's always like a culture struggle. Like, okay, I'm American, but I'm Haitian too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Especially where I grew up, there was, you know, I grew up in a thriving um, area of a lot of Caribbeans, right? Mostly Haitian, a lot of Haitians, a lot of Jamaicans, you know, Hispanics as well, you know, and
Mhm.
so it was cool to be able to get a lot of different exposure to different types of family dynamics. So that's where, as I'm growing up, and obviously I have my family dynamic within my own household. Now,
Yeah.
as you know, I'm going over my friends' houses and whatnot, and I'm seeing the differences in their family dynamics, right? Because you know, I'm gonna have the friends whose dads are showing up to all the other stuff. Yeah, not to
Mhm.
say they love their child any different than
Yeah.
my dad loves me. It's just that the dynamic is different. Whatever situation that they've got going on is particular and works for them, the same way the situation we had going on was very particular and worked for us. Like, you know, my parents were immigrants. I understood that at an early age too. I know it wasn't hard to be Haitian in America back in the day. That shit was not hard. Sorry, I know it wasn't easy to be
Yeah.
Haitian in America back in the days. I feel like it only recently started being somewhat easy to be Haitian in
Mhm.
America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shout out Wyclef, appreciate you. You know, like, but it was rough. You know, so
Yeah.
I understood that. You know, he had to work extra hard. You know, he had to work a lot harder than everybody else. We, as a people, Haitians specifically, we've always had to work a little bit extra harder than everybody else.
Hmm. I agree.
But it's dope though. I mean, I wouldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean,
Yeah.
being Haitian is a whole vibe, yo.
It's lit.
Yeah, that shit's a whole vibe, man. And I love seeing, you know, that's one of the things I love about social media currently, you know, and I know we've talked about this a little bit on the side where, you know, the seeing the rise of Haitian creativity and seeing so many amazing folks within our community putting putting the country out on a pedestal and in the
Yeah.
forefront in so many different ways. Like, it's beautiful to see, man, and I love it, you know, because then people are now able to get a glimpse of what Haiti really is outside of all the bullshit propaganda that they always show. You know, like, they're always showing the same nonsense, and it gets tiring, you know, when people have to look at that and think that we're this shithole country or whatever, you know. So to be
Yeah.
able to have people within our community out on the forefront saying, nah, there's a lot more to this tiny little island nation than y'all even know. And it's great to see these days. So again, you being a shining example of that, you know, to be able to have the platform you have, is, specifically in this niche that is so taboo and shouldn't be talked about within our community and amongst
Mhm.
our people. And you're just saying, fuck that, man, I'm gonna do this. Because that's dope for the little Haitian girl who is at
Yeah.
home thinking, I can't ask my mom these questions.
Yeah.
Coco got you.
I got you. I got you, your mama and your auntie.
Oh man. All right. So, playlist time, so we've been talking, you are the conversational freak, right? We've been talking sex all day, all night here. So I need to know, to add to the playlist, I need three songs that get you in the mood, that you enjoy having sex to. I'm gonna give one of my favorites. I love reggae music, right? I'm gonna go to an old classic. If we're gonna go, girl flex, time to have sex.
I don't know what.
Oh, tell me you don't know flex. No. Oh, I can't believe you don't listen to. You're not a reggae fan, maybe?
No,
No.
it's not that I'm not a. I just don't listen to it. I'm an R&B girl.
R&B is cool, but reggae, I need the wine action, the hip action
I can see
with the
that.
beat.
I can see
Yeah,
why.
reggae music's lit. I'm gonna send you some tracks. I'm gonna send you some
The
tracks.
very end, I'm missing something.
All
Please
right,
do.
but go ahead. I need three tracks from you, your go tos that get you in the mood and get the motion going.
Okay. Champagne Jack, Caliber by Coco Jones, and then a third one that honestly, I know it's gonna sound so corny and cliche. Yes, I'm looking it up, damn it. Yes, I am. I feel like the third one gotta be really good. So, oh, Too Deep by Division.
Right off top, somebody's getting pregnant. Yep.
Ain't gonna be me, but yeah.
Yeah. So are you is music necessary for you, or if it's on, it's on?
It depends. It depends. It depends the mood. It depends what's going on. It
Hmm.
depends if I haven't seen you in a while. I ain't got time for plug in no speaker and connect to the Bluetooth. Ain't
Yeah.
nobody got time for that. It depends.
Yeah, see, because that's what I feel like. I feel like music is generally like, what's going down. Like all day, you've been like, nah. As soon as you get home, it's a wrap, and you got it set up.
Yeah.
Like spur of the moment, it's probably tough to be like, hey, hold on 1 second, let me hit this playlist.
Oh, the Bluetooth's not working. Oh, the Wi-Fi's not. I'm not doing that. At that point, I'm cold. Just forget it.
Yeah, yeah, nah, yeah. See, and that's the same with me and the missus. Like, you know, music. I don't think it's not often at all. But I'll tell you what, man. Let that right playlist be on. Ooh, shit be popping. Oh man, yo, Coco, this was fun as hell, man. I'm so glad we were finally able to do this. I appreciate you jumping on with me and having this conversation, man. Remind the people who you are, what you do, and where they can find you.
It's your girl Coco, the conversational freak. I am your sex coach. Not only your sex coach, your sex confidence coach to help you master yourself in the bedroom. You can find me on Instagram at the conversational freak. For all the women, make sure you join the private community to make sure you get all your resources, ask your questions, and just join the circle because we lit. Period.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much again. I can't thank you enough for joining me on this dope ass
Absolutely.
conversation. As always, I am Rick of the Mr. Eccentric podcast. You already know you can find me on all forms of social media at Mr. Eccentric. That is at MRESENTRIC. You can also email me at MrEccentric@gmail.com. Comments, questions, concerns. You got show ideas. You want to be a guest. I'm with it. I'm always down to talk and have great conversations. This was fun, man. I hope we could do this again. Whenever you get your podcast up and running, I want to be one of your first guests, man. Don't freeze me out.
Co-host.
Hey, listen, man. We might need to talk behind the scenes, man. We work something out.
Yeah,